Hello everyone, welcome to Achievers IAS classes. Let's begin our discussion on the current events of 18th January 2018. The first issue in news is regarding the various petitions challenging the Aadhaar in the Supreme Court. Recently in the Supreme Court, there were several questions raised over the use of Aadhaar, like if the state could compel the citizens to share their biometric data in public interest, pointing out that there was no statutory backing to Aadhaar from 2009 to 2016, during when enrollment for Aadhaar was done and the captured personal data of crores of citizens were transferred from private enrollment agencies to the UIDAI. Several petitions also pointed out that there was no free consent of the individual while enrolling for the Aadhaar, as well as no opt-out option once the individual has enrolled, thereby raising the question of state's encroachment on the personal bodily autonomy of an individual. We'll look into this issue in further detail once the judgment of the Supreme Court is out. Till then, let's move on to the next issue in news, which is an editorial regarding the recent findings of the annual status of education report brought out by the NGO Pratham. The ASAR 2017 report is unique from its previous reports in that it focuses on the children in the age group of 14 to 18 years, and it uses a wider dimension to capture the learning outcomes than the traditional methods of arithmetic skills and reading comprehension employed in the previous surveys. The various findings of the survey show that rural education is far from encouraging. Like 14% of the children in the age group of 14 to 18 years are not enrolled in any formal education, and only 5% of the respondents in the survey are reported to participate in any vocational course, thereby limiting their future productivity. Moreover, the learning outcomes of those who have progressed to higher levels of schooling were disturbing in the sense that only 43% of the youth in that age group could solve an arithmetic problem involving a three-digit division. In this regard, we should remember that it is absolutely essential to all children to get education so that they equip themselves with a skill, especially job-oriented vocational capabilities for any meaningful utilization of the demographic dividend of the country. In this regard, the findings of the report give out a strong message that the right to free and compulsory education should cover the children up to 18 years of age rather than the present coverage of children aged between 6 to 14 years, because guaranteed inclusion of the children in this age group will help them acquire education for their meaningful future participation in the workforce. But it should not be driven by mere enrollment, as enrollment figures often do not mean high attendance, given the differences among different states in the number of children enrolled in appropriate levels of schooling. Like for example, around 29% of boys and girls in the state of Chhattisgarh are found to be not enrolled in appropriate levels of schooling, while the percentage drops down to around 4% in the state of Kerala. Also, there is a massive digital divide, with 61% of the respondents in the survey stating to have never used the internet, and among them, girls having least access to computers and the internet. Therefore, the government should focus on increasing its expenditure to provide quality education, because good education is bound to have a multiplier effect on productivity. In this regard, the government should remove the lacuna in the policy to guarantee education to all children below 18 years of age and focus on quality education to improve the learning outcome of children. With that, let's move on to the next issue in news, which is regarding the recent questions raised over the proxy voting rights of migrant workers in the Parliamentary Panel of External Affairs. Various MPs on the panel questioned if proxy voting is meant for easier participation of non-resident Indians, why is the same benefit not extended to the migrant worker within India? Here we can recall that last year the cabinet cleared an amendment to the Representation of People Act, which allowed NRIs to vote by proxy, which was till now reserved only to armed forces personnel and certain officers notified by the Election Commission. The move was justified, stating that many NRIs did not want to spend foreign currency to come to India just to participate in the election process. Given the high levels of migration from rural to urban areas, the issue raised requires special attention to safeguard the voting rights of the migrants. The next issue in news is regarding the upcoming GST Council meeting, which assumes significance coming less than 2 weeks before the presentation of Union Budget of the financial year. The GST Council is expected to discuss on various issues like the declining revenue collections and the waning tax compliance after the introduction of GST system. Post the introduction of GST, the bulk of indirect taxes would no longer be part of the budget announcements, but the budget will still carry the policy changes with respect to the new indirect tax system. And as we know, any change in the indirect taxes of goods included under the GST can only take place after the approval of the GST Council. With that, let's move on to the next issue in news, which is regarding the interlinking of rivers. The issue is in news because recently Union Water Resource Minister has asked officials to work on ways to better utilize water from non-Himalayan rivers by citing example of the Polavaram project where excess water from the Godavari river is transferred to the Krishna river, thereby supplying water to water deficit regions. From the examination point of view, it is important to remember that the Polavaram project is a major irrigation project being constructed on the Godavari river across the states of Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, and Chhattisgarh. The next issue in news is regarding the recent developments on the Korean Peninsula. The two Koreas, that is the North and South Korea, have decided to field a combined women's ice hockey team at the upcoming Winter Olympics, thereby offering a respite from months long tension over the Korean Peninsula. This is an interesting development, but Japan has urged caution over North Korea's recent move because North Korea has refused to give up development of nuclear missiles in spite of increasing UN sanctions and has test fired various missiles over Japan. North and South Korea have previously also collaborated at various international events, and the recent move does not indicate any major policy shift because the two countries are technically still at war because the conflict of 1950 between the two Koreas ended in a truce and not a peace treaty. The final issue in news is regarding holding a mini ministerial meeting of about 40 WTO members to discuss ways to increase global trade being considered by India. We'll look into this issue in further detail based on the future developments on the same. With that, I conclude today's news analysis. Do like, share and comment to support this initiative. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.